He could feel that the death energy around Zhou Yi was not only caused by external factors, but, more importantly, by the fact that Zhou Yi had lost his will to live. His only desire now was death. Upon seeing the formation, Wang Lin immediately understood that with his current cultivation, he could not break it. Perhaps, only Zhou Yi himself could break it. Though Wang Lin's voice was weak, it echoed through the crack. Zhou Yi's eyelids trembled, and slowly, his hollow eyes opened, revealing a deep sorrow. His face still carried a dazed expression. At that moment, Ling Tianho's divine sense behind Wang Lin suddenly burst out of the golden light prison, changing direction and turning into sword chi, heading straight for Wang Lin. A soft sigh echoed throughout the crack. The sigh came from Zhou Yi. As the sound spread, the sword chi launched by Ling Tianho's divine sense immediately shattered. The sword chi dissipated, forming a luminous orb that floated above the fourth sword, motionless. "You, leave." Zhou Yi still did not look at Wang Lin and slowly closed his eyes again. Wang Lin had come all this way, his primordial spirit severely wounded. He could no longer even leave his body. His primordial spirit was weak, reduced to the size of an infant, and his once crystalline body was now murky. He had used all his divine abilities, spent everything he had, to reach this point, simply because Zhou Yi had once done him a favor. But now, all he received in return were Zhou Yi's three indifferent words. "You, leave." Wang Lin's face twisted into a deep mockery, not directed at anyone else, but at himself. "Your heart is already dead. I shouldn't have come." Wang Lin shook his head and turned, walking toward the exit. The favor Zhou Yi had done for him was already repaid the moment he stepped into this crack, the moment his six paths primordial spirit collapsed. Has my heart truly died? When Tingle left, my heart really did die. The dazed expression on Zhou Yi's face grew heavier, and the sorrow in his eyes deepened. He had been sealed here by Ling Tianho for hundreds of years, lost in a state of confusion. He knew the intrusion of the ancient demon remnant soul, but he didn't want to stop it. Only the golden light on his forehead remained, a symbol of his obsession with Xun'er, something he couldn't discard. With a light sigh, Zhou Yi raised his completely purple right hand and gently flicked forward. A golden light suddenly shot out, containing a sword chi so powerful that even Ling Tianho from back then would have been in dire straits. This was the life-bound sword chi of the Renegade Immortal sword spirit. Zhou Yi only had 99 of these sword chis left in his body. Back when he chased Ling Tianho, he had released most of them. Now, only 4 remained in his body. The sword chi shot straight at the luminous orb above the fourth sword and pierced through it. Ling Tianho's divine sense was strong, but it was still weaker than Zhou Yi's life-bound sword chi from the Renegade Immortal sword. The orb shattered, and within it, Ling Tianho's divine sense was immediately shredded by the sword chi, transforming into a cloud of sparkling lights. As the sword chi swept through, it swiftly flew into Wang Lin's body like the Milky Way. At that moment, Wang Lin's primordial spirit instantly absorbed the glowing specks, and his damaged primordial spirit began to recover at a frantic pace. Almost in the blink of an eye, his primordial spirit not only fully recovered, but also felt a slight expansion, which gradually slowed down. The remaining glow didn't dissipate entirely and automatically found the sword chi of Ling Tianho within Wang Lin's primordial spirit, fusing with it. This sword chi immediately became 3 times sharper than before. "My light-bound sword chi cannot stay in your body. I cannot give it to you. You were injured because of me, and I helped you recover. Now, leave and never return." Zhou Yi's voice slowly came through. Wang Lin sighed and walked out. While doing so, he patted his storage pouch. The treasure pagoda containing Zhou Yi's divine sense appeared. Wang Lin glanced at it and tossed it backward. The promise made back then has been fulfilled. This pagoda will no longer protect. Zhou Yi's eyes suddenly opened wide as he gazed at the treasure pagoda. The sorrow in his eyes was overwhelming. "Tingo." Wang Lin paused but did not turn back. Instead, he said, "Her name is not Xun'er. If I'm not mistaken, her name is Qing Shuang." Zhou Yi's spiritual body trembled. He raised his head, and the emptiness in his eyes disappeared, replaced by sharpness. "Qing Shuang." Wang Lin turned around and looked at Zhou Yi. Without speaking, he tossed out Qing Lin's jade slip. Zhou Yi's gaze fixed on it, and he immediately grabbed the jade slip, focused his divine sense, and swept through it. His expression changed, and after a long silence, he bitterly murmured, "Qing Shuang. She's the daughter of Immortal Emperor Qing Lin. This Qing Lin is the strongest in the immortal realm. When the immortal realm shattered, he escaped and hid in a cave in this land of demonic spirits to heal, Wang Lin said calmly. The sharpness in Zhou Yi's eyes intensified, and a faint glimmer of life began to emerge within him. The purple aura around him began to swirl faster, but it couldn't stop the emergence of this vitality. You mean Tinga's father is healing in a cave here? Wang Lin, are you certain about this? Wang Lin looked at Zhou Yi, shaking his head. I haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I can't be sure. The dazed expression on Zhou Yi's face gradually faded, and he muttered to himself, yes, this was never something that could be confirmed. But if Tinga's father really is here, then with his cultivation, he should be able to wake Xun'er up. At this moment, Zhou Yi seemed to have forgotten that the Xun'er he spoke of was merely the remnant soul of a white-clad woman, left behind because of his 1,000 years of obsessive devotion. That remnant soul had already dissipated and no longer existed. I want to take Xun'er to meet her father, and let her awaken. The vitality within Zhou Yi grew stronger and stronger, and the purple aura on his body immediately began to boil, violently striking at the golden light at the center of his forehead. Disperse. A sharp glint flashed in Zhou Yi's eyes. The purple aura on his body immediately struggled, trying to backfire, but it had no effect. It quickly dissipated from his body, eventually being forced out, turning into a large mass of purple energy that followed the underground formation and vanished. As the sword spirit of the Renegade Immortal sword, if the ancient demon remnant soul from the Water Demon province were to appear in person, perhaps Zhou Yi, with only 3 strands of life-bound sword chi remaining, would be unable to resist. But at this moment, dispersing the demonic aura was not difficult for Zhou Yi. As the purple energy dissipated, Zhou Yi's body became crystal clear, flowing like water. He cast a deep glance at the treasure pagoda, raised his right hand, and immediately a sword light shot out from the pagoda. This sword was small, clearly designed for a female cultivator. It was one of the Renegade Immortal swords. Zhou Yi, being the sword spirit of the Renegade Immortal sword, immediately transformed into a beam of crystal light and merged into the Petite Immortal sword. In that instant, a surge of sword chi instantly filled the crack, sweeping through. At this moment, the 3 divine thought orbs floating on the formation's surface from the southeast, northwest, and northeast immediately flew toward him, turning into divine thought and heading straight for the immortal sword Zhou Yi inhabited. A cold snort came from within the sword, followed by Zhou Yi's life-bound sword chi sweeping out with a thunderous roar that reverberated throughout the entire tidal abyss. The sharp sword energy seemed as though it would cleave the abyss in half. The 3 light orbs instantly shattered, and Zhou Yi, transformed from the sword, devoured them in a single bite. As for the 4 projections of the primordial spirit swords on the ground, they too shattered under the sweeping sword energy, along with the formation, collapsing together. The crack that sealed Zhou Yi immediately collapsed in an instant. Ling Tianho, even though I've been sealed for hundreds of years, if my heart had not died, could your seal have trapped me? I am the sword spirit of the Renegade Immortal sword. I share the same lifespan as heaven and earth, inheriting the 4 ancient sword intents. Though I cannot kill you, you will never be able to seal me as long as I do not wish it. For these hundreds of years, while my heart was dead, I could still feel the inheritance of the ancient sword intent. If we meet again, let's see if my cultivation is still the same as before. Zhou Yi, now part of the immortal sword, shot out of the collapsing crack. Wang Lin immediately followed, and together, they appeared outside the crack, 1 sword in 1 person. Zhou Yi, materializing from the immortal sword, still wore the same attire as before, though it appeared more weathered. In his hand, he held the treasure pagoda and gazed at it deeply before passing it to Wang Lin. Wang Lin, keep this safe for me. Wang Lin nodded, receiving the pagoda and placing it into his storage pouch. Zhou Yi's gaze fell on Wang Lin, a hint of satisfaction in his eyes as he spoke. In just a few hundred years, you've reached this level. Congratulations. Wang Lin sighed softly and said, thanks to the crystal of the Ascendant, otherwise. Wang Lin shook his head, not continuing. The crystal of the Ascendant was your reward for protecting Xun'er. No need to thank me. If anyone should be thanking someone, it should be me. I never expected that after hundreds of years, we would meet again. If it weren't for your relentless search for me, I doubt this meeting would have happened. Zhou Yi waved his hand to interrupt Wang Lin, then after a slight pause, he added, Wang Lin, I remember that inside the pagoda, there were 2 immortal swords. Is the other one still with you? Wang Lin patted his storage pouch, and the immortal sword belonging to Su Ligua flew out. Inside the sword, Su Ligua immediately sensed Zhou Yi's presence. As a spirit body himself, he felt a deep connection, as if Zhou Yi was the true sword spirit of the sword he resided in. He even felt that, in truth, Zhou Yi was the real sword spirit, and he was merely occupying the sword. Eh? Zhou Yi's eyes gleamed with a sharp light upon seeing the sword. He pointed his right hand, and Su Ligua immediately flew out from the sword, his face displaying a fawning expression even more intense than when he faced Wang Lin. Senior, I am Su Ligua. My master ordered me to reside in this immortal sword, not that I forced my way in. Wang Lin's expression immediately turned cold, and he shot Su Ligua a cold glance. Zhou Yi laughed heartily and said to Wang Lin, I can't pass on my divine ability to you, but this spirit body is quite good. I can make him feel the ancient sword intent and catalyze its growth, until he can fully control this immortal sword. Zhou Yi smiled slightly and said, You'll know once you feel it. With that, he reached out his right hand, and Su Ligua was immediately grasped by him in midair. A beam of pure light shot from Zhou Yi's eyes, instantly falling into Su Ligua's eyes. Su Ligua trembled, confusion flickering in his eyes. He distinctly felt that, in this moment, countless fragmented pieces of information flooded directly into his body from the void. It was a sensation he hadn't experienced since he was once a cultivator at the nascent soul stage, feeling his nascent soul leave his body. Gradually, he became lost within it. Zhou Yi released his grip, the sharpness in his eyes fading, his expression weary. To pass his inheritance on so directly to another was a spiritual injury to him, but he didn't mind. If Wang Lin could risk danger to save him, then Zhou Yi too could disregard the difficulty of passing on his inheritance, fulfilling Wang Lin's sword spirit. Wang Lin, your sword spirit is born with a rebellious nature. You'll need to be careful when controlling it in the future, but don't worry too much. When I passed on the inheritance, I left behind a hidden imprint. If it betrays you in the future, the inheritance will backfire. Wang Lin looked at Zhou Yi, his face full of gratitude. Seeing the weariness on Zhou Yi's face, Wang Lin sighed deeply, cupping his hands in respect. Senior, thank you. Zhou Yi's methods were decisive and firm. Back then, he had forced Sun Tai upon Wang Lin as a servant, which spoke volumes. Zhou Yi shook his head. As long as Tingo can awaken, this inheritance is of no use to me. Wang Lin, I ask of you one thing. Help me find Tinger's father. Wang Lin fell silent for a long moment, then nodded. Zhou Yi smiled, raising his right hand. The immortal sword Su Ligua had once wielded immediately flew into his grasp. Taking a deep breath, Zhou Yi suddenly struck the sword. With the strike, the sword let out a loud hum, and a strange energy radiated from it, dissipating into the surroundings. Zhou Yi's face turned pale, and his body gradually became ethereal, only regaining solid form after a long while. Senior Zhou Yi, you. Wang Lin exclaimed, unable to believe what he had just witnessed. From now on, there will only be 3 Rain Immortal swords. As for this sword, it now belongs to you. Whether it was the previous sword spirit or the Rain sword spirit after me, neither will have the right to control this sword. After speaking, Zhou Yi tossed the immortal sword to Wang Lin. Wang Lin caught it, his eyes filled with gratitude. Zhou Yi's gesture was an enormous gift. There were originally 4 Rain Immortal swords, and even if someone had stolen one, as long as Zhou Yi was present, the sword would only be temporarily controlled by the thief. If Zhou Yi appeared, the sword would immediately rebel. Even if Zhou Yi was gone, if the white-clad female corpse were to awaken one day, she could once again create a sword spirit for the Rain Immortal sword, continue the inheritance of the ancient sword intent, and regain control over all 4 swords. In truth, these 4 Rain Immortal swords were tied to the sword spirits in the white-clad female corpse through endless reincarnations. They belonged to the sword spirits, to the female corpse. But now, everything had changed. With that single strike, Zhou Yi, in his capacity as a sword spirit and as the inheritor of the ancient sword intent, had shattered countless cycles of imprints on the immortal sword. As this generation's sword spirit, Zhou Yi, like an emperor among mortals, had carved out a portion of his domain and gifted it permanently to Wang Lin. From now on, even if the white-clad female corpse awakens, even if a new Rain sword spirit arises, they would never be able to control this immortal sword. This was Zhou Yi's edict as the sword spirit of this generation, as powerful as an emperor's decree. Furthermore, Zhou Yi had led Su Ligua to comprehend the ancient sword intent inheritance, essentially opening a door for Su Ligua, a door leading to the realm of the supreme sword spirit. With these 2 tremendous gifts combined, Wang Lin had been given an opportunity, a chance to possess an immortal sword like the white-clad female corpse, one that could not be erased through countless reincarnations. From now on, this immortal sword would belong only to Wang Lin. Even Su Liguo would only be the first-generation sword spirit of this sword. Such an opportunity could only be obtained by reaching the immortal lord level in the immortal realm. Zhou Yi sighed lightly, his body dissipating into nothingness as he merged with the immortal sword. I can sense the presence of the previous generation's rain sword spirit at the bottom of the abyss. This is your third gift. Now go. The immortal sword Zhou Yi had merged with flashed and sped toward the abyss. Wang Lin, carrying Su Liguo, who was lost in the inheritance, entered the immortal sword and flew after Zhou Yi, heading toward the abyss below. The presence of the previous rain sword spirit? Could it be? Could it be that it's that colossal fortune? Wang Lin's heart stirred. Zhou Yi led the way, his sword chi cutting through everything in its path. All obstacles retreated before him as he arrived at the very bottom of the tidal abyss. Here, there was a vast corridor with a deep, pitch-black pit at the center. It was so profound that even divine sense couldn't penetrate its depths. A faint, subtle suction force emanated from the massive pit. Though it was weak, it was ever-present. Wang Lin stepped onto a narrow path where the pit's edge met the stone wall. Tiny grains of dirt along the edge were drawn in by the pit's pull, falling endlessly into the abyss. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he gazed at the massive pit. With his intellect, he almost immediately guessed that the tides in the East Sea were caused by an eruption from this seemingly boundless, colossal abyss. In Wang Lin's mind, it felt as though he could see the scene of this pit erupting once every 5,000 years. Each eruption unleashed unimaginable suction, which followed a strange passageway. This force extended out into the starry sky, pulling countless things into it. The strangeness of the creation made Wang Lin feel his own insignificance at that moment. What kind of divine power could withstand the suction of this pit, which only occurred once every 5,000 years? What kind of ability could achieve such grandeur? Even Tian Yunzi couldn't do it. I wonder if the him Tian Yunzi spoke of, the one who stepped into the third step of cultivation, could. Wang Lin exhaled deeply, staring at the pit, silent. He had no idea where this pit led, nor could he guess. He only knew that if one fell in, escaping would be utterly impossible. This pit is strange. Do not stare at it for too long. Zhou Yi's voice came from the immortal sword ahead. Wang Lin shifted his gaze, but just as his eyes moved away, he suddenly heard a faint voice in his ear. Go down. The voice did not come from the pit but from his storage pouch. It wasn't Yoshishue. Go down. The delicate figure in the scroll was not unfamiliar to Wang Lin. Years ago, when facing the Immortal Remnant clan's 3 ancestors on Vermilion Bird Star, after the other side released the Talisman Beast, this figure had summoned him into the scroll. Wang Lin had never figured out the mystery of this scroll. Even after reaching the pinnacle of cultivation, he had once taken the scroll out to study at the Soul Refining Tribe, but progress was always elusive. Although the scroll could leave an imprint, it couldn't be controlled. Now, the delicate figure within the scroll appeared again. Wang Lin's mind stirred, and he sent out his divine sense. Go down into the pit? Go down. The delicate figure softly replied. Wang Lin's gaze flickered. He withdrew his divine sense and glanced at the massive pit next to him. It was pitch black inside, the view eerie and oppressive. After a brief hesitation, Wang Lin turned away, his body shifting as he chased after Zhou Yi. Could it be that there's something connected to the scroll inside this pit? Wang Lin caught up with Zhou Yi, his expression thoughtful. This pit contains a strange force that can affect the mind. Those with weak will might fall just from looking at it. Zhou Yi's voice echoed from the immortal sword ahead. Do not look again. Focus on flying. Zhou Yi warned again. Wang Lin nodded, tightening his focus. He followed Zhou Yi, quickly soaring forward. As they moved deeper into the corridor, the pit's suction fluctuated, sometimes strong, sometimes weak. They flew for an unknown amount of time before Zhou Yi's immortal sword, carrying him, suddenly stopped. Wang Lin followed suit, halting as well. They had reached the eastern part of the corridor, where ahead was a pitch-black void, the path invisible. Be cautious. There's something strange in this pit. Zhou Yi's voice rang out, but at that moment, dense purple mist suddenly poured out from the pit, spreading through the surroundings. Zhou Yi's voice came through the mist, sounding distant and ethereal. Wang Lin's eyes flashed coldly. The mist was far too eerie. As it spread, his vision was obstructed, and even his divine sense could only spread 3 zhang before it seemed to be devoured by the mist. Even within those 3 zhang, his divine sense was unclear. At the same time, The suction within the pit seemed to grow stronger with the appearance of the mist, yet curiously, it had no effect on the mist itself, which was highly unusual. Suddenly, a flash of sword light appeared within the mist. Zhou Yi's immortal sword flew toward him, circling around Wang Lin. Zhou Yi's divine sense then reached him. "Forget it. Wang Lin, get on. I'll take you across. The mist here is strange. With your strength, it could be dangerous." Wang Lin didn't hesitate. He stepped onto the immortal sword, and a surge of immortal power flowed through the sword, entering his body through his feet. "Calm your mind, open and close your heart, and contain the immortal within without releasing." Zhou Yi's divine sense resonated in Wang Lin's mind. Wang Lin immediately followed Zhou Yi's instructions. The immortal power surged into his body, and suddenly, it vibrated within his meridians, forming a dazzling golden immortal veil around his body. This veil not only contained immortal power, but also carried sword intent. As it spread, the surrounding purple mist was swept aside as if by an enormous hand, creating a clear passage. Zhou Yi turned into a long rainbow, taking Wang Lin into the mist. The mist parted wherever they went. Even the mist that didn't disperse was immediately cleared by the sword aura emanating from the immortal sword. The sword's speed was astounding, so fast that Wang Lin only felt the rush of the wind, and the mist around him seemed to transform into purple dragons, flashing past his eyes in mere moments. For a long while, the immortal sword suddenly twisted, soaring upward at a slanted angle and spinning in a spiral. Wang Lin's immortal power surged within him, stabilizing his position on the sword so that he wouldn't be thrown off. The aura of the previous generation rain sword spirit is ahead. "Wang Lin, steady yourself and fight well. I will accelerate," Zhou Yi said, giving Wang Lin a few moments to prepare. Then, without warning, the speed of the immortal sword surged. The speed was so fast that afterimages appeared, as if it was teleporting. Standing on the sword, Wang Lin felt as though a massive mountain was rushing toward him. He stopped breathing, focusing solely on circulating immortal qi. If it were truly teleportation, it wouldn't have been so intense. But this wasn't teleportation. It was the speed of teleportation itself. The immortal veil around Wang Lin's body twisted and deformed, clinging tightly to him. The immortal sword had reached an unimaginable speed. Wang Lin could even see the mist around them turning into a misty sea, a result of the sheer speed. It was the same feeling he had when he first entered the cultivation world hundreds of years ago. This sensation stirred emotions within him. This is the immortal sword. This is the sword spirit. My sword once had such power, but without a strong sword spirit, it couldn't unleash its full potential. Su Ligua may have a rebellious nature, but this devil fears the strong. He cannot break free from my grasp. At that moment, the surrounding purple mist suddenly began to swirl, expanding like clouds in a storm. A powerful suction force emerged from the bottomless pit where the mist was dispersing. The massive suction force appeared so abruptly that even the mist, which was unaffected before, was now pulled toward the pit. The suction force grew stronger, and the mist was rapidly drawn into the pit. Meanwhile, small rocks on the surrounding walls began to tremble, one by one, as they too were sucked in. In a distant corridor, a great sword lodged into the wall trembled, gradually pulling itself out. With a loud crash, it tore free from the wall and flew toward the pit. In that instant, Zhou Yi's immortal sword came screaming through the air. Wang Lin, standing atop the sword, immediately recognized the familiar golden greatsword falling toward the pit. Without hesitation, Zhou Yi twisted the sword's body and shot toward the pit, heading straight for the golden sword. The suction force inside and outside the pit differed vastly, and as Zhou Yi flew in, the combined speed of his flight and the pit's pull made him move faster than lightning. In the blink of an eye, he caught up to the golden greatsword. Wang Lin, standing on the immortal sword, glanced at the scene with determination. As the immortal sword neared the golden greatsword, he reached out with his right hand, and the sword was immediately pulled into his grasp. However, the golden sword was surrounded by the suction force of the pit. As Wang Lin grabbed it, it felt like he was battling the pit itself, fighting the pull. At that very moment, an immense force surged, and Wang Lin nearly lost his balance, almost falling off the immortal sword. In a moment of crisis, Wang Lin took a deep breath. The Dao transformation yellow spring swirled around him, and with a single finger, he summoned a yellow spring that spiraled violently, releasing a gust of yellow spring wind. Inside the whirlpool of the spring, the suction force weakened just enough for Wang Lin to grab the golden greatsword, halting its descent and slowly lifting it upward. A low growl came from Zhou Yi, as though it contained the sword's spirit incantation. In a flash of sword light, Zhou Yi shot forward, carrying Wang Lin toward the pit. Wang Lin felt as though his body was about to be torn apart. The greatsword in his right hand felt like it weighed an unfathomable amount. As the immortal sword shot forward beneath his feet, veins bulged on his face. As Zhou Yi accelerated, the sword gradually rose, and Wang Lin's determination hardened. He knew he couldn't let go now, or this sword would likely never be his again. With Zhou Yi's final burst of speed, the great sword was lifted higher, its golden layer now completely falling off, revealing the jet-black blade beneath. The gems on the sword's hilt shattered, turning into dust and being sucked into the pit. Zhou Yi let out another low growl, and the power of the immortal sword surged once more, propelling them even further, as the suction force around them continued to weaken. Finally, Zhou Yi and Wang Lin shot out of the pit. At the moment they broke free, Wang Lin shouted, grabbing the great sword with both hands. It soared into his grasp. Colossal fortune. On the blackened blade, 2 shallow words were engraved. Holding the sword, past events flashed through Wang Lin's mind. He took a deep breath, not having the time to inspect further as Zhou Yi rapidly whisked him away, speeding down the corridor. Zhou Yi moved with lightning speed, flashing through the corridor. Guided by Wang Lin's divine sense, he headed for the only exit of the tidal abyss, the exit of the Flame Demon Province. Wang Lin held the colossal fortune in his hands, carefully examining it before storing it in his storage pouch. With just one glance, he had already sensed something unusual about it. If his cultivation hadn't reached the pinnacle stage, he might not have been able to discern anything. But now, at this level, things were different. However, this was not the time for further investigation. He placed it in the pouch, intending to study it in more detail once he left the tidal abyss. The tidal abyss journey is now complete, but it's a pity that mysterious token. I still have no idea where it could be, Wang Lin muttered, deep in thought. Within Wang Lin's storage pouch, the mosquito beast opened its eyes, filled with confusion. Normally, within the confines of the pouch, it wouldn't be able to sense anything from the outside unless the practitioner was exceptionally powerful. Yet now, it felt as if many familiar presences were close by. After a moment's hesitation, the mosquito beast couldn't make sense of it. It glanced at the thunder frog, which remained in a deep slumber, before lying down on its back and closing its eyes again. With Zhou Yi's speed, they were drawing ever closer to the exit of the Flame Demon Province, and likewise, they were getting nearer to the mist and the large number of mosquito beasts surrounding Tan Lang and the others. In the land of demonic spirits, a cloud of auspicious clouds appeared in the sky, coming from the south. This cloud radiated with the aura of immortal chi, as if it were a true heavenly artifact, emitting radiant light and painting the sky with colorful hues as it soared. Upon this cloud stood 2 figures, a man and a woman. The man had a tall, graceful posture, wearing a water-blue robe embroidered with swirling azure clouds, the fabric rippling with subtle waves. His long hair billowed in the wind, revealing a handsome, resolute face. In his hand, he held a green jade flute, and his robes fluttered as if he were an immortal. Beside him, the woman wore a light purple dress, with small pink fairy blossoms embroidered on it. Her hair was casually tied in a loose bun, with a lavender hairpin inserted, giving her an effortless yet elegant appearance. Her face was lightly adorned with makeup, and her lips, though not painted, were naturally rosy. Her skin was as smooth as jade, and her aura delicate, like the fragrance of orchids. She occasionally glanced at the man beside her, her eyes filled with tenderness. It was clear that they were a Dao couple. As they traveled on the cloud, the divine ability they wielded was one that ordinary cultivators could perform, though they typically rode on borrowed white clouds and mist. This was a low-level technique, neither particularly fast nor powerful, merely for aesthetic appeal, often used to impress mortals with an illusion of celestial grace. However, these two were different. The clouds they rode upon were made from the 9 heavens immortal clouds, which, even in the immortal realm, were considered extraordinarily rare. The power of this cloud was in the fact that it contained natural immortal thunder, making it far more formidable than most would realize. Older generations of cultivators, upon seeing these clouds, would immediately recognize their identities. Only those of the bloodline of the blood ancestor, Ling Tianhou or Tian Yunzi, could casually ride on such clouds. The Cloud Immortal Couple. They were the ones who, together with Tian Yunzi, Ling Tianhou, and others, first entered the land of demonic spirits and occupied a cave mansion for tens of thousands of years without leaving. Wang Wei and Huan. Their cultivation was on par with Tian Yunzi and others, and with their skills in combining techniques, even Tian Yunzi was wary of them. What made Tian Yunzi even more cautious was the mysterious background of Wang Wei and Huan. Even he couldn't find out much about them, though he knew they had been cultivating for far longer than he had. Fortunately, the couple was of a calm temperament and not inclined to fight for power. As long as they weren't provoked, there was no danger. Had the short old man and Wang Lin's soul banner seen this couple, he would have gritted his teeth, immediately recognizing them as the ones who had stolen his storage pouch long ago. Wang Wei and Huan traveled on the clouds, heading straight for the Flame Demon Province. As the cloud entered the province, a figure deep within the dragon pool of Heavenly Demon Capital suddenly opened his eyes. It was Beiluo, the ancient demon, who had been fusing with the remnants of other ancient demons. His eyes flashed with a bright, sharp light, but it disappeared just as quickly. They've left the cave mansion. It seems I must accelerate my devouring of the other ancient demon remnants. Beiluo thought, a hidden sense of dread in his eyes. The cloud continued its journey into the Flame Demon Province, pushing the clouds in the sky aside. Even the demon generals and demon soldiers within the nearby cities were shaken, too afraid to leave and investigate. Before long, the cloud stopped above the entrance to the tidal abyss. The clouds slowly dispersed, and the two figures descended from midair. Interesting, Xun'er, there are actually some restrictions here. These restrictions are quite clever, the man said, his eyes filled with interest as he turned to the woman beside him. The woman smiled softly, her voice gentle and melodious as she replied, "Not many restrictions catch your interest." The man gazed at the ground, admiration in his eyes, and said, "These restrictions are made using ancient sealing arts." There's even a faint aura of immortal sealing. Not simple. The woman gently brushed her hair, looking at the ground and nodding softly. The ancient sealing arts are indeed expertly done, but the ones with the immortal sealing aura are a bit rough. This one was probably just recently set up. The man nodded in agreement. This must have been set by a cultivator with an ancient practitioner's inheritance. Given their skill, their cultivation must be at least 10,000 years old. The woman chuckled softly, shaking her head. That's not necessarily the case. You've never seen the person who set up these restrictions. The man laughed heartily. Xun'er, are you testing me? How about we make a bet? If the one who set these restrictions hasn't cultivated for 10,000 years, I'll lose. What do you think? The woman laughed lightly, covering her mouth. She looked at him with tenderness in her eyes and smiled. A mere restriction, yet it makes the usually confident Wang Wei so invested? How curious. The man shook his head with a smile and said, "You're avoiding the main point again. I don't believe you can't see it. Although this restriction is crude, the thought behind it is quite clever. Look at this restriction. If it were anyone other than us, they'd probably overlook it if they weren't careful. This restriction doesn't contain any killing intent, so there's no danger, but it can awaken the divine sense. As soon as someone steps inside, the one who set up the restriction will instantly be aware of it. That's not the main thing, though. If it were just this, I wouldn't be interested. Look here." The man pointed ahead to a patch of grass. As the wind blew, the grass swayed, seemingly without any abnormalities. A strange gleam appeared in his eyes as he said, "If I'm not mistaken, this restriction isn't just one, but a series of interlocking ones. Even if we break this restriction, as long as we don't remove them all in one go, the person who set it up will still be aware of it." He spoke, and with a motion of his right hand, all the grass where his gaze landed was immediately flattened, except for one blade, which still swayed with the wind. Creating restrictions out of thin air is a lower-level technique, but using objects to set restrictions is only a middle-tier method. But look at this grass, Xun'er. Take a close look. Do you notice anything unusual about it? The woman was quite surprised. She knew Wang Wei all too well. Although he had a gentle personality, when it came to matters involving restrictions, he immediately transformed. becoming someone entirely different. And it was precisely because of this, ordinary restrictions would never catch his attention. It was rare to see the strange gleam in his eyes like this. She focused her attention, and soon her eyes widened in surprise. This grass, it's real but has something fake mixed in. Wang Wei smiled, waving his right hand through the air. The grass was instantly severed at the root and fell into his hand. He nodded and said, "That's right. It's real on the surface, but the juice inside is fake." As he spoke, he rubbed the grass with his fingers, and a white mist rose from it. As the mist swirled around, the liquid inside was immediately released. With the release of the liquid, the grass no longer remained green. It slowly withered to a yellowish color, and finally, a single drop of crystal-clear green liquid appeared in his palm. This drop of green liquid was translucent, and within it, one restriction after another flashed by, densely packed and nearly countless. A look of appreciation appeared in the man's eyes. He gazed at the liquid in his palm and said softly, "This contains over 1,000 restrictions. These restrictions are perfectly combined to form this drop of liquid. The structure is incredibly stable. Although these restrictions are nothing extraordinary, the more ordinary they seem, the harder it is to achieve this. Only a cultivator who has practiced for over 10,000 years could pull this off. Only someone who has experienced the highs and lows of life, who has seen death and rebirth, and who has comprehended their own Tao, could have such a mind, such a subtle hand." He sighed with a hint of nostalgia, adding, "In this world, if one doesn't have 10,000 years, how can they experience all the ups and downs of life? How can they truly understand life and death? How can they forge such a clever mind? Restrictions aren't really about talent. What truly matters is the mindset, the scheming mind." The woman looked at him with tenderness in her eyes. Standing beside him, she said softly, "Don't think too much. Weren't you betting with me earlier? I bet the person who set this restriction didn't cultivate for 10,000 years. The man laughed heartily, his nostalgic gaze fading as he gave the woman a deep look. "All right, we'll wait here and see the outcome. And we can also wait for that greedy wolf to show up." The woman smiled. "I wonder what kind of expression the greedy wolf will have when he sees us. Will he resist, or will he obediently hand over the token? He won't dare resist." The man chuckled lightly, his tone casual, without any hint of anger. The greedy wolf's whereabouts had already been detected by this couple as soon as he entered the land of demonic spirits. After all, they had been in this place for tens of thousands of years, thoroughly studying a vast, illusory abode, and had collected countless treasures. As for Wang Wei, aside from restrictions, he was skilled in divination. While he couldn't compare to Tian Yunzi in this area, he could still calculate the greedy wolf's position and predict some of his movements. As for the token, they had already calculated that too. However, the token was so peculiar that it could only be obtained at a specific time. That's why they hadn't acted earlier, and instead waited until now to reach the exit of the Flame Demon Province. Meanwhile, deep within the tidal abyss, Wang Lin stepped onto Zhou Yi's immortal sword, moving at lightning speed toward the exit of the Flame Demon Province. Zhou Yi's speed was incredibly fast, and after several days, he arrived at the rift leading to the Flame Demon Province. With just a leap, he could leave the tidal abyss. The exit of the Flame Demon Province was the only place in the tidal abyss that didn't have downward resistance. Instead, the resistance pushed upward. Here, one's speed seemed to be propelled by an invisible force, allowing them to move even faster. Flying through the abyss rift of the Flame Demon Province, Wang Lin's gaze remained calm, his expression unchanged. Standing on his flying sword, he charged forward, while the objects on either side of his vision seemed to transform into streaks of light, whistling past him. At that moment, the speed of the immortal sword beneath his feet suddenly slowed. After circling several times, it came to a halt. Zhou Yi's divine sense emanated from the sword. "Wang Lin, something's off. My sword sense detected a purple mist ahead, within which it seems some cultivators are trapped. The mist is strange. My sword sense cannot fully penetrate it. Trapped cultivators?" Wang Lin thought to himself. He hadn't seen Morong Zhua or the two women, Zhao and Su, along the way. His gaze sharpened. Could it be that these three are the ones trapped? At that very moment, on the other side of the purple mist, a swarm of mosquito beasts spread out densely, their deep red eyes glaring at the mist with an intense murderous gleam. These mosquito beasts, inherently vicious in appearance, looked even more terrifying with their bloodshot eyes. They flapped their wings, producing a humming sound, which merged into a continuous roar that echoed through the surroundings. However, due to the strange terrain at the exit of the Flame Demon Province, a thrust of air from within prevented the sound from traveling far. Each mosquito beast was massive, with a flattened abdomen, clearly starving for a long time. Their long mandibles gleamed with a cold, ominous light, resembling sharp swords. Their bodies weren't entirely black. Many of them were gray, with fur-like spikes that looked like sharp thorns, making them appear quite formidable. They surrounded the purple mist, but did not enter it, merely circling outside. A violent aura intensified with each passing moment, emanating from every mosquito beast. On the abyss wall beside them hung tattered cloth strips and large, dried bloodstains. Nearby, a greatsword lay dim and lifeless. Amidst the dense swarm of mosquito beasts, the mandibles of a few occasionally clashed, sparking flashes of light. Each clash caused a louder buzzing, as if they were about to tear each other apart. Whenever this happened, a fierce screech would come from deep within the swarm, immediately suppressing the vicious bloodlust between them. However, perhaps due to their prolonged stay in this place, the violent tendencies of these mosquito beasts were growing harder to control. At this moment, two of them collided with their mandibles, their eyes flashing with a sudden murderous light. The two mosquito beasts let out a shrill screech and immediately began fighting each other. Another screech rang out from deep within the swarm. The two battling mosquito beasts paused for a moment, but then their violent nature surged, and they resumed fighting, disregarding the screech. Once again, the screech echoed, and this time the mosquito beasts scattered, forming a passage. A mosquito beast, around 10 zhang in size and faintly purple, slowly flew out. Though its body was tinged with purple, the color was faint, barely noticeable. 7 silver needles were stuck in its head, emitting waves of fluctuation that caused the creature's eyes to occasionally show signs of pain. Its appearance immediately caused the two battling mosquito beasts to stop, their eyes filled with murderous intent. The purple mosquito beast let out a screech, and the sound seemed to possess divine power. Upon hearing it, all the mosquito beasts trembled. Seizing this opportunity, the purple mosquito beast flapped its wings and shot forward like a bolt of lightning, reaching the two fighting mosquito beasts in an instant. Its massive mandibles struck twice, piercing through the two beasts, draining them of their life force. The two mosquito beasts withered and fell from the air, turning into dried corpses. The purple mosquito beast turned and coldly surveyed its surroundings. All the mosquito beasts immediately let out submissive screeches, no longer daring to fight among themselves. The purple mosquito beast slowly flew deeper into the swarm, a sense of ancient weight emanating from its body.